Morning, Gemma. Just firstly, just tell us how your students are sort of coping with online homeschooling at the moment.
Morning, Richard. Yeah, so our students have been online learning obviously for quite a long time now, since Christmas, and they also were doing all their live lessons in the previous lockdown. They've coped with it brilliantly, actually. They've shown a really industrious approach to home learning and homeschooling. Obviously, our students are a little bit older, so they're year 10 and upwards, but they've approached it in a really brilliant way. They are just so grateful that we're able to keep offering them lessons and to keep extending their learning, even though they're not able to physically be in the building at the moment.
Do we have to be careful? I mean, and I'll put my hand up. I'm probably guilty of it this morning. I'm using this phrase "screen time," but because of the situation, is that maybe too much of a general phrase? Because perhaps sitting in front of a tablet, doing some coursework or keeping in touch with your friends is a little bit different than sitting there playing a game or doom scrolling on Twitter for 3 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think as a teacher and also as a parent myself, I think we almost need to make that division between negative encounters with screen time, like mindless hours of YouTube or repetitive video game usage, and actually purposeful, meaningful encounters with screens, because it is through the medium of the screen that we are able to have online lessons and online learning and create, a virtual classroom space for those students. So I think actually it's about looking at the positives of screen time and almost that we should be celebrating the benefits of screen time. Because if this pandemic had have happened even 10 years ago, I don't think as educationalists we would even have been in a position to, equip the students with such a great educational experience as we are doing now. And that's because of technology and the way that, digital software has developed.
Well, it's 2021, isn't it? And I'm just about of a vintage where when I was at school, there was a debate about the use of calculators or a debate about the use of checking your spelling on a computer. But in real life, that's what you would do at the moment. I'm pretty sure everybody will have seen this video over the last 24 hours legal proceedings where the lawyer's got a cat's face by by mistake because of something on his assistant's computer. I mean, this is omnipresent, isn't it now? This is how people are going to be living their lives for years to come.
Absolutely, and I think the younger generation, particularly, they typically live their life much more through their phones and through their tablets. So I think we need to appreciate that, and perhaps because we're not part of that generation, who have grown up with technology at our fingertips all the time, that we more naturally as adults think of that as being something negative. And actually, digital literacy is so important and is so key to becoming, an employable adult nowadays. And that without those digital skills, you would be disadvantaged in the employment world, or when you go on to university.
So in general terms, if someone asked you the direct question, are children on computers too much? Are children looking at screens too much? What would you say to that?
Well, I think that's just about getting the balance right, really. I think at the moment, the situation that we find ourselves in, it is an absolute necessity that they are on their screens so that they can continue their learning, because otherwise they wouldn't have access to their teachers, they wouldn't have access to their lessons and to their classmates. And it's that which has enabled them to not lose any of their learning time. But what we need to be mindful of is getting the balance right. And we thought about that quite a lot at UTC Leeds. And so what we've ended up doing, and I know lots of other schools have responded in a similar way, is having 40-minute lessons and then having 20-minute breaks. And it's about getting that balance between, we're going to have a really intensive, hard working period of 40 minutes. And then we're going to have our 20 minutes where we move away from the screens and we go and do something else. And it might be doing something active. It might be reading a book, or, some of our students make model aeroplanes in their breaks and things. And it's about getting that balance between using the screen in a positive way, but then making sure that we're having that kind of deliberate, directed time away from the screen as well.
Thanks, Gemma. That's Gemma Wright, Assistant Principal, as she's just said, at UTC, taking children from year 10 upwards and specialising in STEM subjects.